sun is beginning to set over the Jabbok River, and on the sandy beach of that river is Jacob. Jacob, after 20 years, is about to meet his brother Esau, whom he cheated years ago and has not seen since. Last he heard, Esau said quite clearly that he wanted to kill Jacob. That was over 20 years ago. Will Esau still be angry? Jacob sends gifts across the Jabbok River ahead of time as gifts to appease him. Camels, goats, sheep, donkeys, sends them over with his whole household. Jacob's always been a shrewd guy. Couldn't hurt. But Jacob is still not sure. So he says, I'll wait the night on this side of the river and see my brother in the morning. Give him a little more time to think about forgiving me. So the sun gets lower and lower. And there he is on the sandy banks of the river, looking around. Maybe he can find a rock as a pillow or something like that. Maybe he can put his head here or there and maybe get some sleep. But he stops. And he looks around. Was there a noise? Did he just hear something? There it is again, over there, just upriver. The sun has gone down by now, and it is dark, pitch black dark. No moon, not even any stars, just black, black night. There it is. There it is again. A movement. It's definitely something coming toward him. He realizes that his heart is beating fast like a jackrabbit when the wolf is right in front of him. Heart beating, a cold sweat breaks out on his forehead. Should he run? But where? Should he call for help? Who? The thing gets closer. He can hear the crunch of the gravel. Suddenly, in an instant, the thing is on him. It grabs his wrist. He instinctively grabs back. And he fights with all the panic he has, all the fear, all the pure terror. What is this thing? He can't see, but it feels like he's wrestling with something like a person. It has hands, or are they claws? And it breathes deeply, low breaths. Now, Jacob is a strong man. He's shepherded sheep and herded camels, but this thing is stronger. And Jacob gasps for breath as they both hit the ground, locked together in a wrestling match. He and this, whatever that is. Over the ground they go. First the thing on top, and then him, and then back the thing again. He hardly has time to think, only fight with a desperation he has never known. The thing is as strong as a beast. And Jacob hears every once in a while the sound of a great wing flapping, like a vulture wing. But he cannot decide whether it is the sound of the wing with feathers or more skin-like, like a giant bat. The thing is relentless. Back and forth they go, on and on, scarcely taking time for a breath, 1 minute to the next, until it turns into an hour of wrestling in the dark, till it seems like it will never end. And yet, as the night wears on, hour after long hour, Jacob begins to get just the slightest idea. An amazing thought, really. He starts to realize that he's not getting beaten. He's not winning, but he's not losing either. Maybe, he thinks, maybe if I can just hold out until dawn, at least I can see whatever this thing is I'm wrestling that's so powerful and frightening. And then, as they roll against a rock, he glimpses to his side just the tiniest speck of light. It will soon be dawn, he realizes. And the very thought gives him new energy, new hope. In fact, if he didn't know better, he could even believe that this thing might even be tiring. Could that possibly be? And it's then that an entirely new emotion begins to flow through his whole self as if blood through his veins for the very first time ever. And the new emotion is anger. Anger. Who is this? Or what is this? Why was I attacked? Why is this happening to me? And so, what began as a desperate struggle for survival and an attempt just to get away takes a turn, takes on a new form. I'm going to beat this, darn it. But he doesn't say darn it. He uses all the expletives in the book. And the dim light on the horizon gets just a bit brighter. He can almost see the things around him, the rocks, the plowed up places on the ground where they wrestled. And I wonder, he says, if I can see this dark figure. He reaches his head around and to see the face, but he cannot see a face. From where he is locked in the wrestling embrace, he looks over and sees one of the eyes looking back at him. And there he can see, to his amazement, that the eye is perhaps uncertain, even fear. For the first time, the thing speaks. Let me go, for the day is breaking. And to his own amazement, in his own anger, he spits out his answer. Jacob says, no, not until I get a blessing out of this. Not until I get something out of this. What's your name? The thing asks. Jacob, he answers. You are not the same person you were, says the thing. For you have wrestled with an unearthly being and prevailed. You are a new person with a new name. Israel. 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 At that, the thing gives up. Let's go. And Joseph falls to the ground and cries out in pain, for in the course of the night, his hip has been thrown out of joint, and the pain shoots through his body again. It is a disjointedness that will make him limp for the rest of his life. But that does not matter now. Now he has won. He looks up and the thing has disappeared. The sun has come up. It is a new day. He sits up, brushes himself off, watches the sun rise higher, and he says his new name over to himself, Israel. Israel. The one who strives with, who wrestles with God and has prevailed. Israel. Taking a deep breath, the deep breath of newness, of purpose, newness of life, he limps down to the river to cross and eventually to face his brother as a new person. Whatever will happen, will happen. And he walks on with a limp, yes, but with a quiet smile on his face. Ever had a night like that? Well, don't be too quick to say no, because maybe you have. Maybe something woke you up in the middle of the night. Some fear, some dread, some nightmare, or just some worry. And it wouldn't let you sleep. Maybe the thing that kept you awake, you don't know what it was. But there's this persistent anxiousness, a persistent worry, a persistent deep fear that kept your mind or something and didn't let it go. And you don't know what it is. On the other hand, maybe you do know what it was. Sometimes you go to bed angry. Sometimes you're so angry that you can't sleep. Maybe someone has hurt you. Maybe there's some injustice that just keeps your heart pounding with the hurt of it. And you spend sleepless hours with fantasies of revenge. Sometimes it's worries about children, about your children. Cue children noises. Good. And I also mean grown children. What choices they're making. What choices they're making in their vocations, their relationships, their ways of living. Do they realize the danger out there in the world? Did I raise them to know that enough? I don't know if parents ever give up that worry. Then, of course, there's always the generic worry about money. What if the economy goes south? Will I have enough for retirement? Is there something I should be doing right now to be safe? And what is that? And you churn and churn and churn. Is my salary enough for the long haul? Will it support the people who depend on me? Or that crisis at work this week, how bad is it? Will I be able to keep my job? Or maybe what keeps you up at night is a medical worry. Your friend has gotten cancer and you worry about them. Or perhaps me. Will I get sick myself in all the many ways that sickness comes to us? Or maybe your demon is some deep regret. And in the middle of the night, you run through scenarios in which you wish that you could change that history. You wish you had done something different. You go over and over a different scene in which you looked up just in time to swerve and avoid the accident. Or you just a scenario in which this time you kept your mouth shut instead of saying that one thing that ruined everything. Over and over, wishing you could change the past. What keeps you up at night? What keeps you up at night? What demon has its claws in you and won't let go? And what can this ancient old story teach us about those times? Well, one thing it can teach us is that you are stronger than you think. You are stronger than you think. Somewhere in the course of the night, if you persevere, you will prevail. But most importantly, and I think this is the key to this story, most importantly, it is to be like Jacob and insist on your blessing. Absolutely insist that something good is going to come out of these hard times that you're struggling with. That's the key to this story, I think. You have the power to insist that something good will come out of your hard time. You don't have to know what the good will be. You don't have to know what blessings will come out of it. For Jacob, the struggle and the pain was a moment of transformation in his life. He became a new person with a new name. As psychologist John Sanford puts it in his book, The Man Who Wrestled with God, about this story, he says, because Joseph stuck with it and demanded his blessing, his whole self was transformed. Out of the pain came transformation. Joseph's story, he says, concerns the most important fundamental process that goes on in human life, the transformation of human beings. Transformation from egocentric, unconscious persons to persons of wholeness, breadth of vision, and spiritual awareness. And his story could well be our story, the story of our spiritual journey. How amazing would it be if the things that worried us and kept us up at night were somehow the very keys to our spiritual growth? So next time you find yourself wrestling with your worries, wrestling with your demons, night or day, remember Jacob and remember this holy story. Turn that wrestling into a prayer and insist that something good will come out of it. At the end of the night or the next morning, pray something like, Lord, please help me out of this. Help me out of this with some new understanding about things, some new understanding about me, something new about my journey, some clarity perhaps, or a new peace or wisdom about my life. Please help me to grow spiritually into a better me. You are stronger than you think. And the struggle that you are going through may not be just a random nightmare. It might well be the way that you yourself are transformed into a newer, stronger, braver, more compassionate person than you were. So hang in there. The sun will always come up, and things will be better. And remember, Jacob did limp off toward community, which is to say that finally you are not alone. God has been with you all along, and the community of Christ awaits you on the other side of the river, ready to embrace you and give you comfort and forgiveness and sustenance and good cheer. You might limp away, but you can be assured that you will be a different person with a different name, and you will have your blessing. Amen.